Did you know that a simple radio-encoded instruction could have sabotaged Hamilton's career in Hungary? And that his engineer discovered it just before the Netherlands GP and broke out of fury? Today we reveal what Ferrari does not want you to know. Everything goes back to the 2025 Hungary Grand Prix, in a weekend that seemed destined to spend without major shocks. Lewis Hamilton, even in full process of adaptation to Ferrari SF25, faced the event as an opportunity for redemption after an irregular season. However, behind the cameras, between scenes and technical corridors, a complex situation was woven that would soon climb to one of the most significant controversies of the year. The controversy exploded with a simple radio-transmitted phrase, "Delta Plan confirms." A routine appearance sent on Tour 42 of the race. But that phrase was never issued in the international signal. It did not appear in the official transmission. It was not registered by the media. Only some analysts and technicians with access to telemetry in real time noticed something strange. Just after receiving that instruction, Hamilton's career fell sharply. The most disturbing was not only the loss of rhythm, but the exact moment in which it happened. This slowdown opened a perfect strategic window for Charles Leclerc to make a stop without traffic, ensuring an advantageous position for the final race. Everything fit too well. Telemetry indicated a reduction on the motor map, changes in power delivery and modifications in braking pressure, perfectly synchronized with that radio instruction. Technically, the car did not present mechanical failures. The performance downturn was induced. Riccardo Adami, Hamilton track engineer, soon suspect. It was not the first time that he noticed discrepancies between the orders designed in the strategy meetings and what finally executed in the race. However, this time it was different. This time it was something orchestrated behind the back of the pilot himself. What for many was just a bad career, for Adami it was a clear signal of internal sabotage. During the following days in the Maranello offices, Adami initiated an exhaustive review of the SF25 configuration history. The telemetry records showed a disturbing anomaly. The suspension, differential and height of the chassis had been altered the night prior to the classification. And not any modification. They were changes that compromised the stability of the car and braking, especially in a layout such as Hungaroring, where slow curves control is essential. Worse, Hamilton's requests on the balance of the car habit that had meticulously discussed with his team after free training were not only ignored, but directly reversed without notification. It was as if someone wanted Hamilton to classify badly. As if someone actively sought to destabilize it. At that point, the tension became unsustainable. The relationship between Adami and Ferrari's technical dome, led by Loic Serra, began to fracture. Although nobody recognized it, internally it was known that there were two projects in pugna: the traditional tactical management model headed by Ferrari's old guard, and the new philosophy promoted by the arrival of Hamilton and his team, with strong technical influence of Mercedes. Adami, who had accompanied Hamilton in multiple sessions since his incorporation to Ferrari, compared each set of setup from training to classification. What he discovered was devastating. The dynamic balance configurations of the car had been altered hours before Saturday, without knowledge of his direct technical team or Hamilton. Key elements such as the rigidity of the rear train, the distribution of braking and the opening of the differential were modified. These changes coincided exactly with the patterns of loss of tensile and instability in braking that Hamilton experienced during the quali. In any other context, these alterations could be considered routine technical adjustments. But here, the truly disturbing was the pattern. The telemetry of the Leclerc car showed no similar changes. Only car 44 was intervened. That indicated a focused action, not a global change of the team. It was there when Adami stopped being a skeptical technician and became a furious man. The tension exploded internally. In a closed meeting in Maranello, the engineer directly faced members of the strategic staff and head engineering managers. Demanded explanations. He asked who authorized the changes, who executed them, why they were not communicated, and above all, why they were made against Hamilton's recommendations. Adami warned that if these practices continued, he could not continue to guarantee the technical integrity of Hamilton's car. Internally, this statement was interpreted as a threat of resignation. And in Ferrari, losing Riccardo Adami would not be just a low technique, it would be a public statement that something is going deeply within the team. It would be to recognize that there is a systemic fracture, a structural distrust between the different factions that manage the present and the future of Ferrari. In the midst of all this, Hamilton remained silent. But that silence was eloquent. The paddock commented that the relationship between pilot and engineer had become even narrower, reinforced by the shared sensation of having been betrayed. Lewis not only suspected the environment, he had technical reasons to distrust. The loss of confidence in the car was not just mechanics. It was emotional. It was political. The Zandvoort circuit, with its parallel curves, high aerodynamic load and constant changes of direction, is one of the most demanding paths for the behavior of the chassis and the precision of the mechanical setup. Just the type of circuit where any undercover modification by small can ruin the pilot's confidence in each curve input, and therefore the worst place to repeat a technical sabotage. Ferrari, knowing that it was under the scrutiny of the paddock after the incident in Hungary, led to the Netherlands an update package focused on a deep review of the rear suspension of the SF25. This piece had been developed for months with the aim of improving traction in curve outputs and optimizing the degradation of tires, especially on revered paths like this. It was an improvement thought specifically for circuits like Zandvoort. But even the technical improvements were involved in the voltage environment. The first internal tests in Mugello, made days before the event, offered ambiguous results. Hamilton, when testing the new suspension, reported positive sensations, although nuanced by the lack of mileage in real conditions. Leclerc, on the other hand, was more critical, ensuring that he did not notice a significant improvement, which lit the alarms in the technical environment. The perception divided among the pilots was not new, but this time each opinion seemed to reinforce the suspicions of cross-favoritisms within the team. Upon reaching the Netherlands, Ferrari's line of work was divided. Leclerc's environment requested a more conservative approach with the new suspension, while Hamilton's side, led by Adami, pressed for a complete implementation of the new package, including variations in the anchor points, cushion terras and rear aerodynamic balance. These decisions, normally technical, became a symbolic weight. It was a setups war. Two philosophies in struggle inside the same garage. And while all this happened within the team, the media pressure also began to grow. In the press conferences, Hamilton responded with measured phrases, but loaded with subtext. He said the update was really positive, but that there was more to extract. His words showed that not everything was under his control. The most laureate pilot in the modern history of F1 was, in reality, claiming a margin of maneuver that he felt they were not allowing him to have. In parallel, Leclerc's performance in previous sessions generated doubts. While his rhythm was competitive, telemetry showed a much more defensive driving, with a clearly oriented approach to conserve tires and avoid errors. In contrast, Hamilton began to be more aggressive. He tried to impose his style, even knowing that every quick lap exposed it to possible new interference from the wall. But the most revealing did not come on the track, but at the technical meeting on Friday afternoon. There, according to internal sources, Riccardo Adami refused to accept modifications proposed by the central coaching staff that committed the validated configuration in Mugello. He demanded to maintain the exact values of filming height and rear rigidity. It was the first time in the season that an engineer from Ferrari publicly disavowed a technical change approved by the management. And although there were no visible consequences immediately, the message was clear. Adami would no longer obey orders if he believed they put the performance of their pilot at risk. Thus they arrived at classification Saturday. With a car to the limit, a divided team, and a determined pilot to demonstrate that, even in the most adverse circumstances, it could still make a difference. Everything that was at stake was not just a pole position or a career result. It was credibility, integrity, and possibly the very future of the Hamilton-Ferrari project. The story you just heard is not just a controversial passenger within the always volatile environment of Formula One. It is a warning. A mirror that reflects how internal structures, divided loyalties and cross-interests can completely distort a project that seemed invincible on paper. Because this is not only what they have done to Hamilton. This is what it means to Ferrari as an organization, and for the integrity of sport as a whole. Lewis Hamilton, meanwhile, faces one of the most complex challenges of his career. It is not the first time that it must battle against adversity. He has done it in the past. But never before his most dangerous rival was so close, so silent, and so wrapped in the same colors he carries in his monkey. This time he is not fighting another pilot. He is fighting a system. Against a structure that has not yet decided if you want it as a leader or as an internal enemy. Therefore, this closure is not a conclusion. It is an invitation. To question what we see on the track. To distrust the official narratives. And above all, to keep your eyes wide open during the next races. Because what happens in Monza, in Singapore, or in Interlagos may not be defined on the track, but in the offices, in technical meetings, in silent decisions that are never broadcast on television, but define championships. So now that, do you think Ferrari is sacrificing Hamilton from within to protect his project with Leclerc? Or is this simply the natural chaos of a team that has not yet managed to reconcile his past with his future?